I am William Wallace. And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are. What will you do with that freedom? Will you fight? Against that? No! We will run! And we will live. Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Welcome to the stage, Bryant Hess.
I feel like I'm at a PGA golf event. You guys are in the galley golf clapping. That was not cool at all. Welcome to the stage, Bryant Hess! Thank you. When I envisioned walking up and the feelings I was going to have after playing that video, they're very different than what I feel right now. In fact, right now I want to lay on the ground and just bawl my eyes out. That was really neat, Melissa. That was Melissa, right? That was amazing. When I did that little meditation thing, it was so real. I mean, it was reality in my mind, in my eyes. Everything was so real. And then to see that video and the message of the video is, don't let anything stop you from that reality. Those guys in that video, I mean, if there's ever a situation for fear, those guys had a reason to feel fear, right? They were a ragtag army looking at a bunch of professional soldiers across the field, knowing that they were likely to be killed. I mean, they had reason to feel fear, right? And so, I think that oftentimes, I can probably just skip this whole presentation, give you guys all a download of that video and say, whenever you feel fear, watch this video, and then go do whatever your feel is telling you not to do. But then that wouldn't feel good about the time I leave for whoever else to fill in. All right, so I'm going to introduce my family a little bit here. My presentation is Lead Fearlessly. And not that you can't, it's not about not feeling fear, it's how to respond when you have fear. But this is my family right here. This is my wife, our 5 children. This is the picture, kind of a goofy picture, but we're sitting in Custer State Park at the Buffalo Roundup that they do once a year in September. And like I said, they got 5 children. Oldest is 12, youngest, the little guy there, Brigham, he's 2, almost 3. He's our diamond baby, I like to call him. We told ourselves that if we could hit diamond and get that level of freedom, that we're going to have our baby. And there he is. When you make those kinds of promises, you got to follow through with your end of the bargain. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about what Blue Diamond is. And I'm not going to get into a lot of details because the things that I do with our Blue Diamond life may not inspire you. But there's a few things we can draw some commonalities from. This is a picture of me on my last day as a hoof trimmer. And I used to be a dairy, I used to trim dairy cows. I'm a third generation hoof trimmer. It was my passion. My goal in life was to be the best hoof trimmer that there ever was. I don't know if I ever accomplished that, but I did well. But Blue Diamond allowed me to quit that trimming job and not have to get up every day in the morning, every day of the year. The last year I trimmed cows, it was pretty horrific. It was the coldest winter we've had for like 100 years. And I had to get up every single day and go trim cows while I was building this business on the side and trying to have enough passion for my day job, but not to give it all my passion, and not to give all my passion to doTERRA because I had to keep the day job going. It was quite the battle, but we did it and I was able to quit my hoof trimming job. So those of you that maybe don't want to have to do your day job for the rest of your life, Blue Diamond can give you that. Isn't that a cool picture? I'm wanting to cry again because the emotions in that moment, thanks to that meditation, are so real to me again. Everything is just so raw. But that's us walking as diamonds, and the celebration that was, and it was so incredible. Here's our another walk. It's a Miami walk. Right, these are our squad goals. That's us walking downtown Miami. The 5 kids there, my wife is taking the picture. But being a Blue Diamond allows you to do pretty cool things. You know, allows you to go, where you want, whenever you want. I was asked a question by one of our upline a few years back, and he said, what's your dream vacation? And I thought about it, and I said, I don't care where it is or what we do. All I care about is that I get to set the end date. That it's over when I'm done vacationing. And that's what Blue Diamond can give you. You get to do cool stuff. You know, this is me 2 weeks ago in the Boundary Waters Wilderness Canoe area. We fished and canoed and camped for a week. A few weeks before that, I was invited to go on an 8-day deep sea fishing trip. These are all things that guys like, hey, last minute I know, but would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, sure, let's do it, because I can say yes to things like that now. Okay, so the bottom line, again, I don't want to get a lot of details. You know, I used to talk a lot about the 2 years we spent traveling in our RV, and I realized that there's 2 groups of people. There's one group that is totally inspired and like, I want that. And there's another group, and I mentioned our 5 kids in an RV for months at a time. They're like, get away from me with that. But the commonality is here. So Blue Diamond means you get to wake up and do whatever you want, every day. But the best part is that you get that lifestyle as a reward for having built something of value that impacts the lives of thousands of people. Okay, that's the greatest part about it, is the reason why you got there is a journey that we're going to talk about here a little bit more. So who needs more motivation than that? Who here wants to be a Blue Diamond? Okay. Now, I joked with Rod that one of the reasons why he had me go first is so that you guys have an entire week of awesomeness to repair whatever damage I might do. Let me tell you about the other side of diamond, okay? So diamond is all those things I showed you, it absolutely is. But diamond is also the hardest thing you will ever do in business. I put that on the end, in business, because if you've ever had to fight cancer, way harder. If you've got a kid that's not healthy, way harder, okay? This is the hardest thing to do in business. The reason I say that is because you have to do all the hard things that any startup has to do, aside from maybe going and trying to find capital and raising funds that way. But you don't have any other traditional leverage points that traditional business does. Like, for example, you can't go to your downline and say, if you don't go teach classes, I'm going to fire you. You can't do that. You can't say, if you do this, I'm going to give you a raise. You can't do that at all. So you don't have those leverage points. The only leverage you have in network marketing is your ability to inspire and motivate somebody else to follow you. That's it. So that is the highest level of leadership that there is. Okay, so getting to Blue Diamond, like I said, it's really hard. It's really hard. You have to do things that you don't want to do. You have to do really hard things to get there. And the things that you don't like to do very well are different than the things that I don't want to do. But it has to be that way. There has to be struggle, there has to be obstacles along the way. And why does there have to be obstacles on your way to Blue Diamond? Why can't it be easy? Why do you have to have your own journey that's gonna try you and challenge you in unique ways to yourself? The reason is because the person you become by overcoming these challenges, by overcoming these fears, is the greatest reward that you will get on your way to Blue Diamond. Those challenges will turn you into the person that you need to be, that your family needs to be, that your team needs to be, that Serenity Lodge needs you to be, and that God needs you to be as well. So, you're probably thinking to yourselves right now, I've got some struggles. I have a few things I gotta deal with. I can promise you that whatever you're dealing with now, between now and Blue Diamond, there's gonna be much harder things to deal with. It's gonna be a battle. You're gonna have to fight. You're gonna have to become a warrior to be able to conquer not so much the outside things, but the inside things. And you have to have that personal development along the way to get there. Now, I get this, I understand this. You know, and I've got kind of a condition that you'll kind of see from my story and why I have this. But sometimes, in fact, I remember when I was 16 years old, I was praying, and this is just messed up as I'm saying it, I didn't realize how messed up it was. I was praying that my life could be harder. Is that messed up or what? But at that point, even then, I got it. I got it that challenges are what cause you to grow, and I wanted to grow. Sometimes I feel almost cheated if it's too easy. Can you see kind of how I'm screwed up in the head a little bit? Like I need some more of that meditation. Now, the reality, so in order for me to get there, it had to be hard. In order for you to get there, it has to be hard in your own way because your challenges and your weaknesses are different than mine. And that reality is so contrary to my nature. Because when I have my team around, I want to give them hugs and make them feel loved and warm and fuzzy, and I want them to have an easy path to get where I got to. And so it's hard for me to allow the space sometimes for my team to have these challenges. You know, but it has to be really, really uncomfortable. You have to be scared, like scared as heck. Okay, you have to cry sometimes, but it's so hard. You have to want to quit. You have to feel fear, and you have to confront that fear. So, after saying that, who wants to be a Blue Diamond? Those of you that still want to be Blue Diamond, you get it. You get that the greatest reward is who you become in the process. And y'all need to join my group for psychology or something like that so we can fix that. Okay? But that's the right mindset you got to have. You have to want it. You have to understand it's going to be hard and be grateful that there will be obstacles in the way that will make you a better you for everybody around you and for yourself. All right. So here's the big. All right. I'm out of order here. Okay. So this is me as a high school junior, senior. I look like a freshman, I know. I used to weigh a few pounds less than I weigh now. I had more hair on the top of my head, less on my face. But let me tell you a little bit about my fear journey and how I learned to acquire this condition. What's that? Thank you. But I was a skinny freshman in high school. I just got done playing football. I love playing football. And so it was like weight room time for the rest of the off season. And there was a classroom near the weight room. On the door it said, body fat testing. And I was like, I kind of want to know what my body fat is. And so I walked in the room, and not knowing anything, I walked out 10 minutes later as the newest member of the wrestling team. Like, only these wrestlers get their body fat tested, apparently. It's really strange. And so I had no idea that the difficulties I was going to encounter were going to teach me a very important lesson, and that fear is a tool, and that if you use it correctly, it can become a competitive advantage. It can become the reason why you're successful. Okay, so football and wrestling have some similarities, but they're also very different. In wrestling, you're 1 of 11. And so your responsibility on any given play is 1/11 of the success of that event, of that play. Okay, so maybe if you're on defense, I was a defensive end, my job was going to be to contain a running play on the right side. Somebody else's job is to watch the flat in case they throw it. The middle linebacker's job is to read the guard and attack or fall back or kind of know where the play is going. So we all have our different responsibilities. Wrestling is very different. Wrestling, it's all you. There's nobody else but you and your opponent, and they put you in a singlet. This goofy little thing, it's a challenge all on its own. Right? And so, very different. So my first year of wrestling, I hated everything about it. So my drill partner in practice was a kid that was bigger than me, he was older than me, and he was bent on hurting me. Like, the guy was messed up. He never graduated. I'm pretty sure he's doing time somewhere for something right now. But he made my life miserable. And then I would go to these wrestling tournaments, and I was just so afraid. I was just paralyzed by fear. But I'd go out there, and they'd, shake hands, and then they'd blow the whistle, and very quickly, with little resistance, I'd be on my back and getting pinned. And so I just hated it. I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Granted, I practiced hard. I knew the moves, but there was something missing from being able to actually put the moves into motion. The action wasn't happening. And so I was at a tournament one Saturday. My excuses didn't work to be out of the tournament that day. And there I'm getting beat up, and I was just so sick of it. One of my friends was like, hey, when you go out on the mat, he's like, don't let him take you down so easy. And don't get pinned. I was like, oh, great advice, thanks. And so that day, it kind of hit me as I'm analyzing what I can do differently, and I'm talking to guys, what can I do? And all of a sudden, like a lightning bolt, it hit me. I was like, take that fear that's paralyzing you and channel it into something productive. Right? Channel it into competitiveness, into aggression, into this like burning desire to win. And so I did, and I won, and I started to win more. I even developed a few of my own moves called the Hess half or the Hess drag. It was really neat, and it turned into this experience where I've taken the ability to have the emotion of fear and convert it into action. Like in a big way action. Like when I'm walking up here this morning, I've got the fear of being on stage, and I'm ready to just go to battle. I'm looking for somebody to look at me the wrong way or something, because I've got that. I'm not channeling it perfectly yet. I got to change a little bit, still a few things about that. But I'm ready to just go to battle, right? And so, but I've taken that ability to feel fear and have it catapult into action to do a couple of great things in my life. In fact, most of the great things I have in my life are because of that. And so I used it, I was the 3 years in a row, I was the most improved wrestler. My senior year, I was the most valuable wrestler. I used it as a missionary to talk to strangers in a strange language. I used it to land an incredible wife. Have you met her? She's up here. Go ahead and stand up here. I mean, for real! She's amazing. And she's my wife. I don't know. Obviously, that it worked for me, right? I used it to start and run a successful traditional business. I was a good hoof trimmer, right? And Oops. You turn that back on. I push the wrong button. And because of, now this is me like before I was married. Great place in my life. Obviously I had those experiences growing up. I was running my own business at the time. I was pretty confident. Might have been a little cocky, but I was confident. I was confident because time and time again, I felt fear, identified it, and overcame it. And that is how you achieve a level of confidence that creates the ability for you to be a leader. That gives you the confidence that people will follow you, and they will do what you tell them to do, and they'll want to go wherever you're going. It's by consistently addressing fears and overcoming them. Okay, but this was my competitive advantage to build a doTERRA team. I didn't have an education beyond high school. I didn't have a big network that I've been grooming for years and years and years. I lived in a town of 900 people in Wisconsin, okay? Wisconsin. Small town. Like, I didn't know a thing about essential oils. I knew nothing. In fact, the first person I shared oils with was Christoph. And he's like this health guru. And we used to work together once in a while, and I'd be drinking like a Mountain Dew and eating a donut. And so when I gave him the oils, he was like, what is this guy trying to tell me about natural health for it? So I'm pretty sure those samples are still unused, sitting in his house somewhere. But I knew nothing about it. But I could feel fear, address it, and go forward. And so I used that ability to tell Rod, yes, I want to build a doTERRA business, not knowing anything about what that even meant. And so I've used it countless times from that first, yes, I want to build a team, to getting to Blue Diamond. Okay? So let's talk about fear a little bit more here. I had a great song I was going to do for you guys, but Brianna talked me out of it. Let's talk about fear, baby. The rest of the lyrics, still a work in progress. Okay, but let's define fear first. Okay, I call fear whatever that feeling is that you get when you have to do something you don't want to do. Okay, that's one of 3 definitions I have. And it can be different for everybody, so that's a pretty loose definition. It can cover most of your emotions. Okay? Let's also call it optimistic denial. What does that mean, optimistic denial? That your life will get better on its own without having to do the hard things. That your job that you don't really care about right now, in time will get better. It'll just get better. Or that your team will grow, even if you don't master the ability to talk to new people. Okay, that's the optimistic denial. It's also one of the definitions of fear. But here's the best definition that I think we're going to come up with for fear. Fear is the compass that will point you to the area of greatest fulfillment. Okay, fear is the compass that will point you towards your area of greatest fulfillment. So what are some of the effects of fear? Let's talk about an unhealthy response to fear. Okay, the first one is to run. You're scared, run! Right? We're programmed with that as a survival mechanism. From back in the day when we were drinking out of the same places as alligators, and when bears lived in your backyard and you didn't have a gun. You know, so we're programmed as survival to feel fear, and our response should be to run or to fight, right? The fight or flight response. In wrestling, I developed a fight, flight, or play dead. And I was able to manage that. So the effects of fear, also paralysis. You know, when you're scared, oftentimes the reason you're not doing what you're doing is because you feel fear and you have not managed to overcome that. Okay? Another instant response is to lose your focus. When you're afraid, like our culture is designed to help you to be comfortable. All the advertising on TV, on Facebook, is all how you can become more comfortable. And so when we feel fear, we instantly want to go to one of these places that will help us to feel more comfortable. You know, your Facebook feed oftentimes is a great place to hide from fear. Netflix is a fantastic place to hide from fear. Amen? So so that's some of the natural responses that we have to fear. That's the response to fear that stops you from getting where you want to go. Now, so here's the thing. Developing a healthy response to fear is the cost of entry for success. You do that, success can be yours. You don't do that, that gate does not open for you. And this is the gate that I envision in that meditation. If you don't master your fear, your response to fear, then what's ever behind that gate for you that you envision while you're meditating, and mine was awesome, I gotta tell you, you don't get it. So let's talk about, well, before we go there, raise your hand if you, thank you, quick response. If you've ever felt fear associated with doing or the thought of doing something in your doTERRA business, raise your hand. Okay, I think that's everybody. Keep them up, keep them up. Raise your hand if you're a silver, or keep your hand up if you're a silver or above. Keep your hand up if you're a diamond or above. Keep your hand up if you're a blue diamond or above. Okay, so let me tell you, everybody that is where you want to go also feels fear. Is that comforting? Sometimes you feel like you're the only one that has that. But I'm telling you, everybody does. The difference between those that feel it and don't go anywhere and those that have their hands up at the end is that they've learned how to have a healthy response to that fear. So fear is not bad. It's our response to it that's bad, that can make it bad. Fear is a tool. We need to embrace it, and we have to leverage it, and it can be the ultimate competitive advantage. And so I want to talk to you guys about 4 steps to conquering your fear. Pull it up here. All right, so these are the 4 steps to conquering your fear. The first one is you have to define what your fear is. And you have to, and the idea here is to make a list. Now on your paper, when you have the first 3 questions are gonna produce a list of actions or results. Okay, the first one is I want you to write down what is the worst case scenario if you were to take the action that you're afraid of. And so, now the question you have to ask yourself once you've put down those worst case scenarios is, would those scenarios end your life? Like how permanent would the impact be? On a scale of 1 to 10, behind each one of those worst case scenarios, put down how bad, how permanent will the impact on my life be if I take this action. Step 2 is, if your nightmare does happen, what steps could you take to repair it? How fast could you get things back under control? And we'll run through some scenarios here with specific fears so you can get an idea of how to play through this. The third one is, what are the potential positive outcomes of the action? So we talk about, you know, the first part here is how bad could it be? What's the cost of doing this action? Okay, now we're going to talk the negative of doing the action. Now we're going to talk about on this list here, what are the potential outcomes, positive outcomes, if you do this action? Okay, and the fourth question is, what is inaction costing you? So we don't only evaluate the downsides of a decision or an action. We have to, equally important is to weigh the upside, the potential positive that will come from it. So I want you to imagine, don't close your eyes, I don't know how to do the meditation thing, but I want you to imagine a fork in the road. Okay, the road to the right is your life without ever conquering your fears. It's probably going to look a lot like your life today, or potentially worse than your life today. The road to the left, imagine your life as after having mastered the ability to conquer fear. and doing it over and over and over again. I want to see that that road, that path, is going to lead to that gate that you walk through in your meditation. So, knowing what could come if you master your fear helps us to realize that the greatest risk of all, the riskiest thing that we could ever do is inaction, is to do nothing in the face of our fears. But I want to run through a couple of these, a couple common fears and how we can put them through this here so you have some practice in how to do it on your own. But before I do so, I'm going to recommend everybody get a forehead tattoo. Or it could be like one like right here. That says, what we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. Okay, so let's, here's the Yoda quote. Named must your fear be before banish it you can. So what are some things that you're afraid of doing in your business? Just shout it out here. Talking to people. Public speaking. Training. Like training your team how to use oils, how to build a business. Is that? Okay. I got lights in my eyes, so I can't really see the faces. Mentoring. Okay. Good. Follow up is a fear. Okay. Let's start with that one. All right. So let's put, now the cool thing about this is really set up if you're doing something really drastic. Like for example, if you're going to quit your day job to go full-time into your part-time business, you're going to run through this list, and there are going to be some pretty severe things here in quitting your job. 99% of the things we're going to talk about, the actions to do with your doTERRA business, are nothing as severe as those types of things. Let's go through it anyway, okay? What's the worst that could happen? You said mentoring? Follow-up. What's the worst that could happen if you follow up with somebody the way you're supposed to? They could say no, okay? And so how quickly could you repair that situation if they said no? How devastating is that going to be in your life? If one person said, no, I don't want to use oil anymore. Next, right, that's the mindset. You could just talk to the next person and all of a sudden that issue, that roadblock has gone away because now you're talking to the next person, right? And so what are the potential positive outcomes of the action? If you ask this person and you set the follow-up, what is a potential positive outcome? So what's the fear again? That they're going to say no? And so you have a proven track record of when you do the follow-up that they say yes. Okay? So I think that it's safe to say that the positive outcomes far outweigh the potential negative outcomes, correct? Okay, so that's follow-up. Somebody said talking to people. Let's go through that one. So what is the worst that could happen if you decided to talk to a bunch of new people? They might look at you funny, okay? They could ignore you. Okay? What are some other worst case scenarios of talking to new people? That you might say something stupid? Okay, yeah, I'm good at that. But I'm on the stage right now too. They're going to think you're a salesperson? Yes?
You might ask you a question you don't know how to answer right away.
They might ask you a question you don't know the answer to. Good. Yes? They don't speak English. Language barrier. Okay? So, of all of these different possible negative outcomes, on a scale of 1 to 10, how devastating are they in your life? If someone you talk to says that they don't want to hear what you have to say. Not that bad. Why are they not that bad? The next question is, how quickly could you repair that? If the person you talk to says no, how quickly can you repair that? How quickly can you find the next person to talk to? And then you're on your way again, okay? What are the potential positive outcomes if you talk to new people? They could buy a diamond kit, absolutely. They could get excited. What are some other potential positive outcomes? You make new friends, right? And what if these new friends never even join your business? You still have new friends, right? You could find more builders. You know, I asked a question on Facebook, on the Daily Edge page probably a week or two ago now, of what do you fear the most? And one of the things that came up pretty consistently was that I may not be good enough to be a big time leader. Okay, and I want to address that one. And that fear doesn't have a lot to do with putting it through here, because there's a lot, that's more of a cover fear that we use to hide some of our deeper fears. But I want to talk about, you know, somebody said mentoring, and somebody said, am I going to have enough time to lead a big team? And I want to tell you right now that when you first get started in your doTERRA business, and you're just maybe a manager or a director, and if you have the fear that you're not going to be good enough to be a blue diamond, then you're thinking way too far ahead. Because at that time, you don't have the skill set to be a blue diamond. But it's okay, because you're not a blue diamond yet. Right? But to understand the process of the journey will get you prepared. Then you will get there, and you will have the ability, you will be good enough to be a blue diamond once you've gone from manager to director to executive to lead. Once you've fulfilled the process and done your part of the bargain, you will have the skills that you need to be a blue diamond when you're ready to be a blue diamond. In fact, oftentimes we say that you become a blue diamond or a diamond before the rank gets there. Okay? And so don't be afraid of not being good enough to have a big time team when you have a small team. Just do your small team stuff. So another thing that I think the people that are afraid of leadership is that they aren't quite ready to take on the mantle of leadership, or to be followed by people. And they don't know what their team needs. They don't know how to meet their team's needs. Let me answer that for you real quick. There's a real short success principle or formula that you can follow that will work for everybody every time. And everybody that's going to speak to you today and tomorrow has to follow these steps. Okay? You find people, you teach people, and you enroll people. And then you follow up with people, and you repeat that process over and over and over again. The only thing that you owe your leaders, your team, is that you do those things, and you do personal development. Now, if you go into Amazon and look up, just do a search for personal development books, your job, if you want to feel like you're fulfilling your obligation, your responsibility to your team, is to read as many as possible. Read all of them. There's not just one book that's going to be the key for you, but you will find the key for you within those books if you're diligent in doing them. So, in closing, the process of conquering fear is one that for some is more difficult than for others, but it's a necessary step for everybody. I was fortunate enough to learn that when I was young, when I was like 14 or 15 or something like that. Some of you have to address it when you're older. Those of you that are here right now are probably on that process of conquering fear and having a healthy response to it because you've made it this far. It doesn't matter what your rank is right now, but you're here at convention, which for a lot of people is a fearful thing. And so it's my promise to you that the results of you learning a healthy response to fear will open the gates of success to you. And you'll be able to conquer those things, and in the process, you will become the person that will be ready for a blue diamond team. You'll become the person that your kids need, and that your spouse needs, and that you need to be to fulfill your greatest purpose. And in a closing note, Dan's going to play a video that sums up action pretty good and better than I can do so, at least without looking like a complete silly fool. So, but thank you very much, and Dan's going to play this video right now.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just Do it! Some people dream of success while you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.